Love it.
Hello, Verma madam.
Hello, has it started? I can't hear anything. In between, 2-3 voices were there. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Acha. I thought that it's not audible to me only.
No.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I have told my students also they will be joining. I have adjusted the lecture after at 4:30 now. I won't be taking 11:30. So I have asked them to join. They will definitely come.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Welcome, ma'am.
Good morning, Monica ma'am.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Side. It is full. How it is to be done? I'm waiting for the madam and also the resource person. Is it for this? YouTube link. YouTube link is also there for student. Because Ayappan, he said that Mr. Ayappan said that it is only 100 of Zoom. So we thought it's good if YouTube students can watch it. I'm waiting for the resource person. She will join. She said she will join at 11:25. So I'm waiting for her. I have sent two button pattern. Thank you everyone for joining. I have shared this. This also I have shared. Because this has not started now. I think Madam said she will join in 5 minutes. Thank you everyone for joining.
Good morning, Monica ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning and welcome. Our resource person, madam, is also there. I will call Panse madam. Madam, thank you so much.
No issues. We'll wait for some time.
Yeah. I will call Panse madam. Yeah.
Morning, Modu sir.
Monica, good morning.
Okay, good morning, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, because resource person. You are still traveling.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am, for joining. I think Shall we start, madam?
Yeah, yeah.
Video can, sir, can you switch off your video, sir? कामेश्वर सिंह सर आप वीडियो म्यूट कर देंगे वीडियो म्यूट वीडियो को ऑफ कर देंगे वीडियो ऑफ कर देंगे सर आप
Good
वीडियो ऑफ
morning.
कर देंगे सर कामेश्वर सिंह सर वीडियो ऑफ कर देंगे आप yeah because madam is already there and we are also showing to students YouTube live. So I think many students must have joined in YouTube also. So madam, with your permission, can I start now?
Yes,
Pansi
yes,
madam
please.
and
Yes, please
Rashmi madam, Di Mukund madam is also there. Bodbole madam is there. I don't know. I can start. I think Pathak madam. Pathak madam said she is joining. Pathak madam. I don't know. Ayappan sir को मैं बोल देती हूँ. Where is Mr. I will just ask him to if he can mute the audience.
No, but we can mute ourselves. There's no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Rashmi madam. Welcome Rohini madam. Rashmi madam.
Yes,
Madam?
I'm in.
So we can start. Our resource person is already here. Welcome, madam. And yeah, I think I will start. Respected principal, madam, Dr. Chaya Panse, today's resource person and guest speaker, Dr. Rashmi Oza, Professor, Department of Law, University of Mumbai, Vice Principals, Professor Sanjeevni Pathak, Dr. Manisha Acharya, Professor Maithili Mukundaran, Junior College Vice Principal Rohini Godbole Madam, esteemed colleagues and dear students, a very good morning to all of you. On behalf of the Internal Complaints Committee and Women Development Cell of Murshi Dayanand College, I extend a warm welcome to all. We are truly honored and privileged today to have with us Dr. Rashmi Oza Madam, a very distinguished scholar who will deliver a lecture on gender justice, the way forward. The Women Development Cell of our college aims to promote gender awareness among our students and to emphasize that all, irrespective of different genders, must be treated with equality, dignity, and fairness. Our endeavor has been to make students gender sensitive in their thoughts, behavior, and attitudes by organizing various programs, competitions, informative talks by experts and scholars in this field. And today's talk is part of our endeavor to promote gender sensitization among students. I request now Principal Madam to welcome the guests and address the participants.
Good morning, everybody. Respected Vice Principal, Mrs. Sanjeevani Pathak, Mrs. Maithili Mukundraj, the Coordinator of Women Development Cell and Head of Political Science, Monica Verma, my teacher colleagues, and the guests for today, Mrs. Rashmi Oza, the Head of Law, Department of Law, University of Mumbai, and my dear students. Madam, I welcome you on behalf of MD College this morning. To give you a brief idea about our college, we are about 58 years old college, and we have got all the three faculties: art, science, commerce, right from 11th to PhD. We have PhD in Hindi, Marathi, English, mathematics, chemistry, zoology, commerce and management. And we also have certain self-financing courses like bachelor's in computer science, mass media, banking, insurance, financial markets, management studies, etc. And we are also accredited A grade, and we are known for dramatics because our college, most of the people in the Marathi theatre are our alumni. Shivaji Satam is there. We have Bharat Jadhav, Ankush Chaudhary, Neelam Shirke, who is a wife of Mr. Uday Samant, our education minister. She was also the alumni and in the film. And we are also known for sports. Up till now, we have got about 33 Shiv Chhatrapati Award winners, about 4 Arjun Award winners, 2 Eklavya Award winners, and 2 girls few years back had got 1 crore each for the Kabaddi play from the Chief Minister's Fund. So this way, we are now also known for academics because for last 2 years, our college has been backing the first round, first prize, that is the university topper for BMS. And slowly in academics also, we are moving ahead. Madam, today's topic is really very interesting. And dear students, when we are talking about gender equality, gender justice, we always feel that all men and women are equal. But when we really give a thought, are we really equal? There is disparity still in our country. There is violence against women. Not only violence, even if you see the political party, the government area is dominated more by men than women. The share of women is comparatively very less. And a question to y'all, when can this equality come? And my answer is only when you're empowered. When you're economically empowered, will then there be equality? And now I'm sure Madam is going to talk into much more details about this topic. And Madam is going to give an insight in this. Madam, I once again welcome you to our institute, and I also welcome the Vice Principal of Junior College, Mrs. Godbole, who is here, and all the Junior College staff and students who are here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Chal.
Hello. So may I start? Monica ma'am?
Monica? Hello?
All right. Sorry.
Connection में ये हो जाता है.
No. It was me. I was on mute. Now you can hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes,
before I invite Rashmi Oza madam to deliver her talk, I would like to give a brief introduction of madam, which is really very inspiring for all of us. When I was going through madam's bio data, so only highlights I will read because it runs into pages. And madam's YouTube also, her speeches and her talks are available, which I was actually yesterday I was watching few of them. Dr. Rashmi Oza is a recipient of gold medal for securing first in master's degree of law from Mumbai University. She is also has done postgraduate diploma in human rights from University of Mumbai. I request the audiences please to mute yourself. Mr. Ayappan, can you do the favor?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you. So madam has done her doctorate on the topic human rights and gender inequalities in India from Mumbai University. She's net qualified. She's presently a professor in Department of Law, and she was former head of Department of Law. Madam had corrected me yesterday, actually. In July 1998, she had privilege to represent India at International Institute of Human Rights in France, where she completed her teacher's training course in human rights. Madam has also practiced as advocate in Bombay High Court and Senior Central Government Council for 12 years. and simultaneously she was also in the teaching profession. In March 2003, she has been awarded International Diploma in Human Rights with the distinction by the Raoul Wallenberg Institute of Human Rights and Humanitarian Law. Madam also has the distinction to research paper presentation before the Committee of United Nations Organization. Uh, This is also very interesting that in 2005, she has been listed as the leading educator of the world. And in October 2005, she has been awarded the title of Blue Book Women of the Year by International Biographical Center, Cambridge, England. Madam has been conferred with the honor of Siksha Ratan Puraskar, conferred by India International Friendship Society, New Delhi. She is also the chairperson of a registered NGO, Human Rights Action Group. And Madam is a life member and national coordinator of the jurist wing of Brahma Kumaris. And she has been resource person in various refresher courses and represented India in various international and national conferences. Madam, we are really privileged and fortunate to have you with us so that student and all faculty member will get some insight into the topic, gender justice, which is so much now relevant and talked about, particularly the Me Too movement and all. So I'm looking forward to a very fruitful session, madam, and now I request you to please deliver the lecture, and I request all the participants to please mute yourselves so there is no disturbance. Please, I request all the participants to mute. Okay, madam.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica ma'am, for a very generous introduction of mine. Revered Principal Panse ma'am, respected faculties of MD College of Arts, Commerce, Science, revered Principal and Vice Principal of Junior College as well, and the faculties of Junior College. And dear students, a very good morning to one and all. I wish I had an opportunity to visit physically because long back, I think many years back, I was privileged to be addressing the faculties and students at MD College of Arts, Commerce and Science. Probably it's more than 5 years back. And again, I'm privileged to be before you all, though virtually. So it's something better than nothing. So rather, presenting my views virtually also shouldn't be making any difference. We will have a questionnaire session at the end of the, course at the end of the lecture. And I wish that you shoot out maximum questions that's running within your mind after I complete it. The question is why on 22nd of February 2021 are we talking about gender justice? As Principal Ma'am rightly said that we have innumerable laws which enshrines the provisions with regard to life, liberty, equality, justice, so on and so forth. But yet, what is it that makes us, debate, discuss, and draw public attention with regard to gender justice? The presumption is that yet there are grave and systematic violations in the form of offenses, be it in other forms as such, so far as women are concerned. So first and foremost is, let me just tell you that there is a sharp difference between sex discrimination and gender discrimination. Sex discrimination is something which none can be blamed about because that's a biological distinction, whereas gender is inclusive of men, women, and as late as 2014, for the very first time in the history of Indian judiciary, the court has given recognition to third gender, that's a transgender, in one of the significant case of the apex court, that's Nalsa versus Union of India. So when we speak of gender, it includes all human beings, including men as such, including transgender. But then why is it that, when we speak, we think of women when we speak of gender justice? Well, there is a sound reason, because sex is a biological difference, as I said, whereas gender is how do we perceive a person. These are socially structured differences, in the sense the differences which we as human beings have created, so far as men, women, transgenders, lesbian, gays, X, Y, Z, whosoever it be. So, well, in context of women, how do you construe or how do you perceive a woman? Well, you are a woman, so you should be very soft spoken. It doesn't befit of a woman to be speaking in a loud tone. Well, you're a woman, so you should have a very excellent body mass index. It doesn't befit of a woman. Well, you're a woman, so bearing children and rearing children, taking care of all the household is your responsibility. You are a woman, so taking care of elderly at home is your responsibility. You are a woman, so you are expected to be very decently dressed and well behaved, well mannered as such. Why is it that these socially structured rules and regulations are conveniently inapplicable to the other sex, be it, men, be it any other sex as such? So that is where the fault lies. And that is how it continues, either by way of customs, traditions, culture, the existence of the stereotype roles between men and women. I remember post-independence, Free India's very first Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru had stated that we still need to awaken the people in our country. And to awaken the people, it is the women who will have to be awakened first. Once she's on the move, the family moves and the nation moves. On the other hand, Manu, the supreme lawgiver, had made a very controversial statement. Na stri swatantra marhati. A woman doesn't deserve freedom. Freedom is for men and only grammatically feminine. Now, how contrary these two statements are. One by the supreme lawgiver, and the other one is the thought process of Free India's first prime minister. I'm just trying to, gauge how the thought process of a person works. Be it then, be it pre-independence, be it post-independence, and be it even today in the year 2021, we still see that the patriarchal relationship, which operate through gender, class, race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation, are the factors which are directly responsible for subordination, subjugation, and oppression, so far as women are concerned. Panse ma'am rightly spoke about the offenses which are being committed. It's been exactly 1 year since all of us have undergone this COVID-19 pandemic situation, and we have been suffering in some way or the other. Within this pandemic situation also, I'm sure all of us have read in the newspaper or have seen on the news channel that there has been a steep rise in the cases of domestic violence, and the victims of these domestic violence are undoubtedly women. Why does this happen? Be it during lockdown, be it during this COVID-19 situation as such, why is it that systematically it is the women who are at the receiving end when it comes to the cases of domestic violence? We have laws like the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act of 2005. How effective has it been when the ratio shows that it's not just domestic violence, there are a number of other offenses wherein there has been a steep increase in crimes against women. The reports of the National Crimes Record Bureau reveals that every year crimes against women is on a steep rise. It's not just on a decline ever. till date as such. So what could be the gross reasons? Are we not having laws? Yes, we do have the world's largest and the world's best constitution. And within the constitution of India, I'm sure we are aware of that there are four compartments of constitution. The preamble, the constitutional fundamental rights, the directive principles of state policy, and the fundamental duties. Now, within preamble, there are three precious words within the preamble of the Constitution. It's justice, liberty, and equality. So when we speak of justice, it's social, economic, and political. Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. I repeat, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, and equality of status and of opportunity. As Panse ma'am rightly said so, why is it that the political participation of women in India is so low? We have just only 10% political participation so far as women are concerned, and only 6% of women hold cabinet positions, which could make a very grave difference. So are we living up to these three precious words within the Constitution of India? And if I have to give a deep thought as a student or as a researcher, are we outliving these three words within the preamble of the Constitution, which still remains a very big question mark before us, and we need to give a considered thought as such. I will not go to the international laws to which also India is bound, to comply its obligations under the international law, which also makes provision for equality of sexes. There can't be discrimination. But let me tell you that women constitutes a little more than half of the world population. So if she constitutes half of the world population, is she not entitled to equal rights? And therefore, what is it that our great framers of the Indian Constitution had to say? Surely most of us are aware of the Constituent Assembly debates. It took 2 years, 11 months, and 17 days for the Constitution to be put in its place, conveniently very well drafted Constitution, and that came into effect on the 26th of January 1950. So it's been more than 7 decades. Just last month, about a month back, we celebrated the 72nd Republic Day, remembering our Constitution, remembering the goals of the Indian Constitution. So before going to the Indian Constitution, let me just take you to one of the women-centric convention to which India is a party, and that is Cedaw. It is CEDAW, which came into force on the 3rd of September 1981, and it stands, the terminology, the nomenclature of Cedaw is, it's the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. We have known that there are four major world conferences so far as women are concerned. In 1975, the first conference was at Mexico with the theme Equality, Development and Peace. So women fought out for equality prior thereto, and at a world level it was discussed. In 1980, the second world conference was at Copenhagen, where the theme of the conference was Education, Employment and Health of Women. Now, education, as Panse ma'am said, is rightly very, very vital so far as empowerment of women are concerned. Education is still a contentious issue in our country as such, because we still have certain restrictions falling within the rules which are framed by none other than the central government and state government, which denies equal opportunity to women. Employment and health. Why is health so very important factor so far as women are concerned? So it's the report of the NFHC, National Family Health Survey, which says that if you take a slot of 3 women, say for example, Panse ma'am, Monica ma'am and Rashmi Oza, the medical reports would reveal that out of these three, every 3 women, One of them suffer iron deficiency, they are anemic, they suffer vitamin deficiency as such. So which is a shocking and a glaring, report, which I think we need to give a considered thought when we speak of gender justice. Why is it that just within this ratio, 3 out of every 3 women, one of them suffer these deficiencies as such, is a major health crisis so far as women are concerned as such. The third world level of conference on women was in Nairobi, where it came out with a forward-looking strategy so far as women are concerned, and it came out with an exhaustive report titled as the Nairobi Forward-Looking Strategies. And the fourth and the last world level conference on women was on, it came out with a huge document which is titled as the Beijing Platform of Action or the Beijing Plan of Action as such. Anytime, whenever you find time, just access through the internet, you will find the entire document so very well drafted, which shows that how many concerns with regard to women were expressed and decisions taken by the nation state. Post 1995 till date, it's been how many years? Almost, I think, 20 years, 21 years. Where do women stand? Why is it that, is it that 8th of March is the only day when International Women's Day is to be celebrated and women's rights and women's discussions are to be held as such? But I feel it's every day of the year, all 365 days, one needs to give a considered thought to half of the world population and how there are grave and systematic violations of their basic rights guaranteed under the international law as well as under the Indian Constitution. So when I'm speaking, so when I speak so high of the Indian Constitution, should we not just try to analyze few of the provisions of the Indian Constitution? So I'm just going to very few rights which are equally applicable to women. It's Article 14, which says that the state shall not deny to any person. So it says any person, which also includes women, equality before law and equal protection of law. There's Article 15, which makes a user of the word sex for the purpose of enjoyment of fundamental rights and freedoms. There shall be no discrimination on the ground of sex, religion, caste, property, place of birth, and so on. Article 16 states that no discrimination on the ground of sex, caste, religion, property, place of birth in the matters of public employment. Article 21 is a very, very forceful article which states that no person shall be deprived of his right to life and personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. Would my right to life mean only my physical safety and freedom? There are certain rights which are not categorically mentioned, but which are implicit within my right to life. So my privacy, my reputation, my dignity, those are nowhere mentioned under any document, but we have landmark judgments of the apex court which states that they are implicit within your right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution. Article 23 speaks about prohibition of trafficking in human beings. Let me tell you that the UNICEF review report reveals that India is equally guilty not just of trafficking like practices, but even cross-border trafficking as such, which is a matter of shame for India, that despite, a democratic country like India, despite having the world's best constitution as such, it's all being done in collusion and connivance with the police and the BSF, the border security forces. So we have cross-border trafficking cases from Nepal to India. They are subject. Trafficking just does not include prostitution. There are other acts also which fall within the purview of this word trafficking. Article 24 of the Constitution states that prohibition of child labor, a huge ratio of girl child, are victims of various forms of child labor, all at the cost of their childhood, at the cost of their education, at the cost of their development of their physical and mental potentialities, at every cost as such. And finally, there are child marriages taking place, and they are subject to various forms of hard labor as such. When there is an article within the Constitution prohibition of child labor, significantly the lacunae is that the manner in which it is drafted, that prohibition of child labor up to the age of 14 years in hazardous unit. Now, what is hazardous and what is non-hazardous? It's left to the interpretation of wise minds how you take it up. Now, if I'm asked as a law teacher or as a law student, what is hazardous? So far as a tender age child who is 5-year-old concerned, a girl child who is 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old is concerned as such, for them even just sweeping the floor could turn out to be hazardous with the tenderness of their physique and the mental immaturity which is possessed by them. But nevertheless, that's left to the people to draft, to define what hazardous would mean. Then we have Article 42, which speaks of social security for women as such. We have just, favorable and humane conditions of work. There are provisions under directive principles of state policy, equality of pay and equal pay for equal work. We have provisions that just, favorable and humane conditions of work. Monica ma'am just made a reference of Me Too movement and the POSH Act that we have in our country post the Vishaka case as such. That's the Protection of Women from Sexual Harassment at Workplace, Prohibition, Prevention and Redressal Act of 2013. I will not confuse you with the nomenclatures and terminologies of these big acts that are put in its place, but many of the laws are in favor of women. I'm sure some questions may come forth at the end of the session when there would be a thought which may creep in the mind of any person saying that, well, so many laws for women, why is it laws not for men? Because there is a gross misuse of these laws by women. I will reply to that if at all it's shooted by way of question. I'll come to that question little later on. So we know that, there are violations taking place against women. It's all because education plays a vital role, political participation plays a vital role, but the main root cause is that our mindset doesn't change. How we perceive a woman, how we try to, focus and look at a woman, what are your expectations of women? Sometimes, I very critically, and 20 long years of my teaching postgraduate law students, I try to sensitize my students by saying that, look at the advertisement. When I was a student, like all of y'all who may have been student, we never had an advertisement of sanitary napkins and contraceptive pills. And look at the current advertisements which are there. Fair and lovely, saat din mein gora nikhar. Does that mean that a woman should always is supposed to be having a fair complexion only, else she will not be accepted in the society? The nomenclature is now changed not to fair and lovely, it's glowing and lovely. That is as well unfair so far as women are concerned. Why is it expected that a woman should have a glowing and lovely, complexion as such? This is all because the manner in which we try to perceive, we try to portray women as such. Besides this, I was much critical when I was, in my 90s, I think, when I was teaching at the HR College of Commerce, and there was an advertisement of tough shoes with the models Madhu Sapre and Milind Soman, totally nude, and their few of the body parts just covered with a panther, and they're wearing shoes, tough shoes. Look at what is the nexus or the connectivity between shoes and nudity. And that is derogatory. We have the Indecent Representation of Women's Act, which prohibits such form of indecency so far as women are concerned as such. Nevertheless, these ads still go ahead, still continue as such. And now the thing is, everything has become so significant that even in the open newspapers, we see certain ads and certain news which are derogatory so far as the dignity and reputation of women are concerned as such. Maybe that is my thought process. Maybe that's my way of thinking as such. But I adhere to that being a law teacher, and I still feel that it is how a woman is perceived that has a greater impact, in the society, as to how would a person want a woman to be looked like. And as Principal Ma'am rightly said, that even if we try to analyze or, look at the situation from the atrocities or offenses or violence point of view as such, we have known the Nirbhaya rape case, we have known Mathura rape case, we have known Shakti Mills rape case, we have known Disha in Andhra Pradesh, that Disha Act came into force, by virtue of which Priyanka, who was, very brutally raped and murdered as such. We have these cases on the rise. According to me as a law teacher, I feel rape is even more gruesome than an offense of murder. Specifically, if a woman survives the offense of rape, I mean, it's a lifelong death penalty which she undergoes every second of her life, because the memories cannot be erased, from the mind as such. So there are offenses like rape, molestation, stripping, eve teasing, domestic violence, and domestic violence could be in the form of cruelty, be it physical, mental, and now we have addition of emotional and economic violence as such. We have cases of dowry death, dowry harassment as such. We have cruelty which is, perpetrated against a woman in such a fashion that nothing may have been done physically against her, but it forces her to commit suicide and end her life as such. Constant nagging, so far as a woman is concerned, not and totally inhuman treatment inflicted against her may force her to no other way than to commit suicide as such. We have cases of female feticide, we have cases of female infanticide, and slavery and trafficking are all the issues which cry out for redress. These offenses are as old as recorded history, and they are condoned by the society through silence. Because what happened in the early years, so far as Mathura is concerned, it's forgotten now. After the Nirbhaya rape case, what happened in Nirbhaya is now forgotten in view of the recent rape incidents that are happening. So often there is, I mean, today, I think this morning itself, I just happened to watch an app and a news which came on the app where on the railway platform in one of the railway stations in Mumbai, pushed the woman, in the gap which is between the platform and the local train, to ensure, because of her opposition when he was trying to stalk her as such. Stalking is also one of the offense which is added within the statute book post Nirbhaya case. Now, this is just a news of today, 22nd February 2001 as such. Where can therefore a woman seek justice? So, we have certain laws, customs. Custom is something which is considered as very customary. Things are customary, and therefore that is to be scrupulously followed as such. Customs, and many a times even court opinions which are blatantly discriminatory against women. I will give you some of the examples of the cases, like, say, for example, we had recently two good cases pro women as such, so far as Supreme Court is concerned. One is the Sabrimala case, where the Supreme Court dissected the freedom of religion and said that, well, the temple authorities or the temple board not the permitting the menstruating women is something which will go in gross violation of freedom of religion, and therefore permitted that women of all age should be permitted to go and visit the Sabrimala temple. Now, post the Supreme Court judgment also, there was a stiff opposition by the people in Kerala. There was a stiff opposition even by the law enforcement personnel, where women who tried to make an entry in the temple as such were threatened of dire consequences, and there was some hue and cry and some trouble that had taken place whilst making an entry as such. There were petitions filed in different high courts, and finally, the matter is now referred to the larger bench or the full bench of constitutional bench on the Sabrimala case as such. Now, what happens as a result of even the apex court judgment or the law which is in existence? I think the mindset doesn't change. I remember when I had started teaching about, and at that point of time, the Kerala High Court had given a judgment saying that it's a justified restriction. Women between the age of 14 to 45 are not permitted to enter the temple. Well, that it's not against the women as a class as such. I was a bit critical where, the court could have said that no, it's freedom of every person's freedom of religion to worship in the manner in which they like. You can't impose this restriction. One of my own law student who hailed from Kerala said that it's because of the sanctity of the idol which is in Sabrimala temple, who is considered to be a Baal Brahmachari, so menstruating women cannot, be permitted to enter the temple. I'm sure many of the Hindu culture yet follow the system where a woman is secluded during those days as such. But yet, when I speak of the mindset, I think we all need to know, and something which remains as a grave matter of record is the Arunachalam Case, which is just an incident which happened near your own college premises at the KEM hospital, and where she was chained and where she was raped by none other than a ward boy, which damaged her spine and it subjected her to a persistent vegetative existence or as a comatose patient for over a number of years. The issue was reputation, dignity, and right to bodily integrity of a woman, which took a shape of euthanasia. Now, euthanasia, by virtue of, Pinky Virani going to the Supreme Court and saying that, she can't, we can't just see her, dying a lingering death as such, instead subject her to euthanasia. And the court significantly states that active we do not permit because that's in gross violation of right to life. Passive in certain cases, yes, that's the withdrawal of life support system or, withdrawal of ventilator, so on and so forth. Now, here is where the issue was the condition in which. Why is it that there is so much of less focus so far as victims of offenses are concerned, and there is a big, huge magnified glamour so far as, what should happen and what should not happen instead of focusing on the victim of an offense as such. What has happened thereafter? She died a natural death, but the case will still remain significant. The case will still be remembered because even the amendments which came under law came after with regard to, custodial rape came after the Mathura rape case sometime during the year 1983-84 as such, and these amended laws would not be applicable retrospectively. It has to be applicable prospectively as such. So here is where one needs to focus from the perspective of victims of offenses as such. That's one matter which deserves a greater consideration as such. Let me tell you, one is women as one of the gender, as a class, they are discriminated. Within gender as a class, many women face double discrimination. Now, this double discrimination is because of the race, language, religion, or culture to which they belong, class to which they belong as such. Uh, Within being a woman, if I were a physically disabled woman or if I were a mentally challenged woman, there would have been double discrimination within home, within society, within workplace, at all places, wherever I'm required to go as such. Being a woman, if I were a refugee woman, there is double discrimination. Being a woman, if I were a displaced women worker, there's double discrimination. Being a woman, if I were a migrant women worker, there is a double discrimination. So this needs a considered thought as such. Let me also tell you, when I spoke about the migrant women workers and refugee women or internally displaced persons as such, one shocking figure I think that we all must know when we are speaking of gender justice is 95% of the women and children workforce are working in informal sector or unorganized sector as such, and unorganized sector to which majority of the labor legislations are inapplicable. So be it in construction activities, be it road construction activities, be it agriculture, be it cultivation, be it forestry, be it livestock, be it as vegetable vendor, be it, anything as such. These are all informal sector. If 95% of the total population of women, comprising of women and children, work in informal sector, where are the principles of equality which is enshrined within the constitution so far as this informal sector is concerned? That's a major question before us. Due to paucity of time, I wish to highlight this, that long back, it was the Bhavari Devi case in Rajasthan where she was gang raped because of she having worked for the Women's Development Project, protesting child marriages, which is even till date so prevalent. But then as well, it was so very prevalent as such, and she was gang raped by the people from the higher caste. And comes the decision of a judge without any legal justification or logical justification, when the judge states that, well, those rapists are higher caste Hindus and Bhavari Devi is a lower caste Hindu. A higher caste Hindu can never rape a lower caste women. I mean, that matter shook the ideals of the nation, the constitution, the lawyers, the women rights activists, and therefore a group of non-governmental organizations directly approached the apex court by way of Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan in the year 1997. Monica ma'am did make a reference of Me Too movement, which came much, much later, but way back in 1997, by way of Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan, the court expressed total shock and concern and said it's high time now that we have a law which should be put in its place to protect women from sexual harassment at workplace. Till a law is being put to protect women from sexual harassment at workplace, well, our guidelines will operate as a law. And the guidelines specifically stated that any unwelcome behavior. Now, I'm just making use of this word unwelcome behavior. When it means unwelcome behavior, it need not just be physical contact. Essentially, it would not only mean and include physical contact. So I may, look at, supposing I'm a male, I may look at a woman employee of mine and just wink even from a distance, and she doesn't like my behavior as such. Or I may give a flying kiss and she may not like my behavior. Or I may constantly stare at a woman who looks so pretty and beautiful, or who may not even look beauty. Beauty is not a criteria, as I said. Nevertheless, people cultivate these habits of staring. Now, Would it mean that because staring is not an offense under the Indian Penal Code, भगवान ने हमें आंखें दी है तो हम देख रहे हैं, but that is also an unwelcome behavior. There may be women who may not like being stared by men, giving a very bad look at a woman as such. There may be women who may enjoy that, okay, her beauty is being watched by people. So that's a matter of interpretation. If a woman complains that that's an unwelcome behavior, that should be treated as a most unwelcome behavior, and a complaint can be lodged before the ICC. And as Monica ma'am said, it's now a statutory requirement in every college, every educational institution, every government sector as such, now percolating even into the private sector as such. Post Vishaka case also, in 1999, there was a case, that is Apparel Export Promotion Council versus AK Chopra, where again identical incident took place. An employer called a steno, in a 5-star hotel to take dictation of a meeting, and he tried to misbehave, and she made a complaint stating that it amounts to sexual harassment of women at workplace. We do have this provision into existence under the Constitution, which though falls under the directive principles of state policy, it states that just, favorable and humane conditions of work. So just, favorable and humane conditions at work would mean that she is to be protected. Wherever there are women employees as such, there has to be protective mechanisms put in its place, be it under the law or be it voluntarily by the employers as such, which under the given law we have by way of the Internal Complaints Committee and the Local Complaints Committee as such, under the POSH Act as such. Now, this India gained this momentum not by way of Vishaka just as a first case. There may have been, but it was as early as 1981 when in the United States of America, in US Supreme Court, the case was decided in the case of Vincent versus Marital Savings Bank, where the court gave a significant judgment that subjecting a woman to sexual harassment at workplace would be denying equal employment opportunity. So you're denying her equality by subjecting her to sexual harassment at workplace as such, denying equal employment opportunities as such. I know today many of the students are attending this particular lecture or webinar as such. So I would like to, quote, and they are students and we are living in democracy. So I'm going to express my views from that perspective. I wish that students know that what is a requirement. I will not go to the other laws, niceties. There are innumerable laws, but due to paucity of time, I will not. I'll give you example of a case where the Supreme Court long back in the case of Meera Mathur versus the Life Insurance Corporation of India stated that right to privacy, specifically so far as women is concerned, it's implicit within right to life, which is a guaranteed fundamental right. So what if it is not specifically enumerated under the entire Indian Constitution, but right to privacy is a part and parcel of right to life, where an employee like Meera Mathur was, at the time of her recruitment, was asked several questions which directly infringed her right to privacy, where she was asked, what is your status, marital status, Miss, Mrs., what is it? When did you marry? When did you have your first child? When did you have your second child? What was the spacing between two children? And last question, which shook the minds of the judges of the apex court, is when did you menstruate lastly? And this, the court held, is directly infringing her right to privacy. So what if privacy is not mentioned anywhere within the Constitution? It's a part and parcel of right to life within Indian Constitution. This identical, somewhat identical case in the case on the sexuality of women is concerned is the Air India International versus Nargish Mirza's case. We have all known that what is the criteria of an air hostess to be recruited, lady to be recruited as an air hostess. Well, And you all must be seeing the advertisements also of the various airlines that, okay, age group between 18 to maximum 23 or 25, not beyond that, and a good body mass index, and a blemish-free complexion, and a fair complexion, and a good command over English language. Even when they are called for interview, only knee-length skirts to be worn and appear for the interview. Well, that was all not a matter of challenge by the air. But three gender discriminatory rules framed by the civil aviation authorities were that assuming if she is recruited at the age of 20 as an air hostess, she cannot marry for a period of 4 years, and if she marries, she has to resign from job. That was the first condition. Why should she resign from the job? Because she marries. The same restriction is not imposed to a male pilot or a crew or a male flight attendant as such. The second condition imposed was assuming if she waits for a period of 4 years, and if she marries and if she conceives, which is a biological factor as such, then she has to resign from job because she's not fit to be on flying duties and she's unfit to be an air hostess. And the third condition is her age of retirement would be 35 years as against 58 or 60 years so far as a male employee, a male pilot, crew, or a flight attendant is concerned. Because it's generally believed that after 35 years, a woman loses her looks and charms, and therefore she's unfit to be on, flying duties, and therefore she must resign. That would be her age of retirement. These three gender discriminatory rules were challenged as ultra virus. Article 16 of the Constitution, which says that there shall be no discrimination on the ground of sex in the matter of public employment. And this is a public employment. Now, significantly, this case deserves, to be focused on and on. At that point of time, the matter went right up because I was a student of law when it was being tried, and when the judgment was passed by the Bombay High Court, and later on the matter went to the Supreme Court. But when the matter went to the Supreme Court, the apex court, look at it, was Justice Fazal Ali's judgment, which was heavily criticized because Justice Fazal Ali stated that out of the three conditions, we don't go into the other two conditions. Let me take up the first condition. We'll analyze the first condition, that she cannot marry for a period of 4 years after being recruited as an air hostess. And here is where the judge, it's a reported judgment, which you all must please go through and write an article on that how would a woman expect justice when this is the thought process of none other than an apex court judge, where the judge goes to say that, well, we feel that it's a very sound and salutary provision. So what if restriction of marriage is imposed on a woman for 4 years? He gives two reasons, saying that by 4 years, she becomes mature enough, and therefore she will quarrel less with any her husband, and therefore, it won't end up in dissolution of marriage or divorce. Second reason which the judge gives is that our country is so thickly populated, and because if this restriction is imposed with regard to not to marry for a period of 4 years, it will help a great deal boosting our family planning program. Now, both these reasons did not stand to forget legal reasonings. They did not stand the test of even logical reasoning as such, and the judgment came under heavy criticism from all corners of the country, by the lawyers, by the women's activists, by all of them, saying that how could the apex court judge deliver such or dictate such a judgment. And the irony is that with regard to the other two conditions, it remains silent, but as late as 2002, not with the indulgence of the court, but by mutual settlement by and between the Air Hostess Association and the civil aviation authorities as such, age of retirement was increased from 35 to 50. So it is still injustice as against 58 or 60 for a male employee or a pilot or a crew or a flight attendant as such, but that was a mutual settlement. So after 50, if she desires to do some job, she can't be on flying duties. She has to do some grounded work like clerical work, so on and so forth. These are precisely the reasons why a need arises to discuss about gender justice. Let's not just be shy about what's prevailing in our country. Injustice is all across the globe. Fortunately, I had an opportunity to interact with the Cedaw committee members, and I attended the entire course representing India as such, where you feel that a most developed country like US also, it is the country where there are maximum domestic violences within the four corners of the home, to which women are subject to. Outside their home, a woman may be very pit-pat, dressed very well with a makeup on her face, with stilettos, and very, very perfectly well dressed, using different perfumes as such. But within the home, she is the victim of violence within home, and that too in a country like US. And therefore, no wonder the United Nations came out with a report. It was way back in 1980, which was a shocking report so far as women across the globe are concerned, that women constitutes half of the world population. They perform two-thirds of the total work hours. They receive only 1/10 of the world income, and they are owners of less than 1/100 of the world property. So these are the inequalities, receiving only 1/10 of the world income. Just recently, I'm sure most of you all must have read in the newspaper that there are international debates that why is the domestic work performed by a woman treated as an unpaid labor. Your professor or myself or anyone for that purpose may be waking up very early in the morning, performing all the household chores, cooking, making tea, coffee, tiffins, X, Y, Z, completing all the work and rushing. Why is this only obligation to be complied by women? And if she performs it, why is it treated as an unpaid labor as such? These are the current international debates. Current international debates are also on marital rape, where once on having got married, well, it can't be an offense of rape. It's marital rape is still date not an offense under the Indian laws as such. So woman has no right to complain. We speak of big human rights and fundamental rights, but where a woman has no right over her physical integrity, bodily integrity, right to take decisions, right to enjoy herself in her own way, right to, we make certain reservations even at the international level. So when women constitutes half of the world population, why is it that and what would have been the nature like had there been no women? Very humorously, an author had said that had there been no women, there would have been no laws and also in-laws. A woman is created to civilize men, and laws are the first step towards civilization. So, to what extent are we complying the laws? To what extent is law truly operating as an instrument of social engineering? Yes, it may be operating as an instrument of, curbing and preventing certain evils, but it is not completely eradicated, because of the fact that reports reveal that there is still a steep rise in offenses being committed against women. Rights of women are grossly violated in the matter of inheritance. Even the mother of Booker Prize winner Arundhati Roy's mother, mother. Mary Roy had to fight out a battle right up to the Supreme Court, yet she was denied her right to have a share or get a partition or property partitioned as such. We have progressive Hindu laws, yet if a woman goes to assert her right to claim her legitimate legal right as such, she has had it at the instance of her own near and dear relatives, whom she would have never dreamt of would become her life-threatening enemies as such, and that is the ground reality as such. So here is where when we speak of gender justice and the way forward, I think basically irrespective of all the guarantees and laws, it's the mindset which needs a change. Our Prime Minister had, come out with Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao Andolan. So yes, once educated, you are at least aware of your rights. You may have a separate battle when you go to assert your right as such, but at least making a person aware of or having a knowledge of reading, writing, and the basic laws which are prevalent in our country would also go a long way. But over and above, one thing which is essential is the change in mindset that all are human beings. I am born as a woman, you're born as a man. But when, the body is mortal, it is the soul which is immortal, which of course is from a very spiritual perspective. But I think that is how it should go. So even if you imbibe these values within our mind, I'm sure in the society there can be a greater change. So thank you very much more, Principal Ma'am, Principal Panse Ma'am, Monica Ma'am, for this opportunity. I'll be glad to answer the questions if at all there are any. Thank you.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you. I think I'm audible.
Yes,
Huh.
you are.
Yeah, ma'am. Some few questions are there, but they have asked in WhatsApp group students. Like during lockdown, suppose somebody is faces domestic violence, what a young person can do about it?
A youth can do much because be it, for any rights, either as a group or you can take up the case, for the person who is the victim of woman may be a victim. So by her consent, you can take up the case and lodge a formal complaint in the police station. You can bring about even awareness by holding awareness camps with regard to what are the remedies under the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act. Take up the complaint, follow up the complaints, and spread it on the social media. As Monica ma'am said that she has received some question on WhatsApp. That's become a very, very forceful media of spreading,
Yes.
making the news viral when a person may be a victim of such offense, and she may be a silent victim. I think news gets spread very quickly through social media, and the only thing one needs to ensure is that it's a true complaint, and she's truly a victim of violence, because at times, certain laws are misused, but the proportion of misuse is much, much lower than abuse of women in our country.
Yeah, exactly, ma'am. Thank you. And ma'am, also the recent judgment that Priya Ramani versus MJ Akbar, that is also when you talked about the judge, now see that change in the attitude of even judiciary. When they are defending that a women can also express her grievance through social media platform, which is often not taken seriously.
That's right.
But that is the judgment which is very empowering. But where do we go from here? Is it very empowering? Is it sufficient if I write, 10 years back, I was a victim of my superior or my colleague? How effective is it?
Usually the position under law is that if at all there has been a delay. Now in Me Too movement, reviving the memories of what happened, adequate justification as to what kept a woman for these
Mute
men.
yourself, Shweta. Shweta, mute yourself. Shweta Bangar, please mute yourself. Yeah, sorry, ma'am.
If there is a proper justification that there was a genuine cause which prevented a woman from redressing her grievances, I think there is absolutely no harm, as you can see in the current case which you cited where this Priya Ramani and under the Me Too movement, revived her memories and took up the case, and that was entertained as such. So the courts always considers a justifiable cause, which prevented her from seeking her redressal mechanisms as such. So grievances as such, that can always be considered.
Yeah, and I think about cyber crime also, some student has asked, there are separate laws. There are also cases, Facebook or even in WhatsApp, suppose girls, because in young people will have these kind of concerns. Somebody is sending messages, which is
Yes.
very offending, and what a girl can do.
Yes, it is very true that, with advancement in science and technology, some new crimes have erupted as such. And we just have an IT Act of 2000 with some minor amendments here or there. But we have these grave offenses which goes even to the extent of cyber terrorism and cyber murders as such, phishing, morphing, hacking, so on and so forth. Now, when it relates to a woman and derogatory remarks against a woman and cyber threats being given, through these media or through these technologies as such, the only law that we have in our country is the IT Act of 2000. To what extent does it help us, and to what extent complaints are our law enforcement personnel sensitive to these cyber offenses against women is all, and are they aware about what are these cyber offenses, how it's committed? Because one grave thing that is even today is to catch the culprit of a cyber offense, because it has no borders, territories as such, from any corner, because with the small device like mobile, we get ourselves associated to the world across. So who has committed that offense? It's of course the duty of the law enforcement personnel. But yes, when it relates to a woman, proper mechanism, cyber cells are located almost in every police stations, and one can go and complain, lodge a complaint. And this reminds me, I'll be sharing a link with Monica ma'am tomorrow, with a humble request to all the students. Tomorrow a very eminent personality is will be lecturing on cyber security and sensitization, Mr. Suresh Menon. So I'm inviting all of you all to attend the 1.5 hour webinar from 11:30 to 1. Please do attend and shoot your questions on cyber security and, so women being victim of cyber crimes as such. So I'll be sharing by this evening with Monica ma'am. Yeah.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, because cybercrime cases, many
That's right.
students, they face maybe at a smaller scale, but still they feel threatened by it. So there are 3, 4 questions, and I think faculty members are also there. You can unmute and ask if you have any question, because your lecture was very informative, madam. So if you have any question, you can ask, or I will request Rajkumari Nimbale, Professor Rajkumari Nimbale. You are there, Rajkumari?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Yeah. So I request Professor Rajkumari Nimbale to propose a vote of thanks.
Yeah, sure. Ma'am, before that, I have a question. Is it okay if I go ahead with that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sure. So, ma'am, thank you very much. First of all, the session was very informative, and you have also, as madam has also asked a question from student, that during the lockdown there were a lot of cases of domestic violence or physical abuse. So, similarly, now in this pandemic time or even later on, we are actually focusing on physical violence, and we are actually bringing up the cases. We are talking about it. But what do you think about the emotional violence which is going on? Because जैसे physical violence होता है, the domestic violence, we are able to see the marks on the skin. It is very much visible. But what about the emotional violence, which goes for years and years, and we are not even able to see any scar, outer side? What about the internal mental health issues about the women in that sense? So would you like to guide us about that as well? How can we identify? Yeah, sorry.
It's a very, very Professor Rajkumari. It's a very intelligent question, and I'm thankful that you posed this question. The Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005 makes a mention of even emotional violence. So besides all these years, we had two types of violence, physical and mental. Now here it speaks, you're very true, because it doesn't leave any scope for, an evidence. And for every allegations under law, there has to be a sound evidence, either direct evidence or circumstantial or corroborative evidence as such, which one has to justify with. But there are a number of apex court judgments which says that, when a woman is victim of an offense, her bare testimony or her statement should be considered as true, and it would be for the other side or the respondent, it would be a rebuttable presumption. There would be a general presumption that what she states, because it's not a joke when a woman complains, goes to the police station or goes to the proper forum, to complain about what she is undergoing. So her bare testimony or statement will be generally believed without any corroborative or supporting evidence as such, and the owner shifts on the other side to disprove what she has stated as such. So in context of emotional violence, I totally agree that how would one gather evidence, so far as emotional violence is concerned? Well, because even with regard, there is a general maxim under criminal law which says that mens rea, guilty mind. A judge or the court of law or the authority has to be convinced that the offender possessed a guilty mind, and thereafter consequently he has done an offense. Now how would a judge step into the mind of a person who may have been guilty, and with a guilty mind has committed that offense as such? So with regard to these technological inventions like lie detector, brain mapping test, narcoanalysis, those also were challenged in the apex court, and they are treated as not a foolproof evidence as such. But in context of women, there are supportive judgments which says that her bare statement itself would suffice, and the onus then shifts on the other side to disprove what she stated. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Also, whenever we talk about gender justice, and there is a peak right now, we are actually working on it, and it's showing a very good results as well. But the major thing is, whenever we talk about it, the major idea we have to work towards women, about women sensitization, women empowerment. But we also forget there is a major role of boys and men's also in that. And sometimes what happens nowadays, women are more empowered, but boys are not that sensitive, to actually address about their own barriers as a boys, or gendered masculinity barriers, as well as not even able to understand or sensitize about how to behave along with the empowered women. So how we can address this? It is very much important, as we are talking with students as well right now, because this is a whole new generation, and also your words will be enlightening us for our future references as well. So if you can tell us about that, how we can address it at our home.
Thanks, Rajkumari. I do endorse this view that why is it that we speak of women empowerment, awareness so far as women are concerned, women, more necessity is that we need to make men aware about what is the legal position, and they should be equally taken within the sweep of these awareness campaigns and programs as such. You're very true, and that's the reason I started with the word gender. In the beginning itself, I said, why is it, how do we construe gender? Is it only one sex, or is it other as well? So when we speak of these words like equality, justice, liberty, it is for the whole lot of gender, including men, women, all these categories as such. So yes, it is necessary to sensitize, and over and above, more than sensitization and awareness being brought about with men, boys, and that is again sex. But what I feel is, that it is, and that's why I think the UGC has now mandated that we have human values as a component within each of the syllabus. So it's the values which needs to be imbibed within human beings, and which will bring about change in mindset of people, to treat everyone as equal.
Sure. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I go ahead with vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank Maharshi. Thanks to Dr. Rashmi Ojha ma'am to be here and give us a present view about whole situation, as well as I would like to thank Maharshi Dayanand Education Society Verma madam and Principal Panse madam to go ahead with this program. I would like to thank Vice Principal as well as Vice Principal of Junior College and Senior College both to be here to encourage us and support us throughout the program. Organizing a special thanks to Organizing Committee, Women Development Cell and Internal Complaints Committee to organize this wonderful program, to be there, and every small administrative components to be there. Also, I would like to thank Ayyappan sir, Ayyappan Pillai sir for the technical support, and last but never the least, the participants, all of our colleagues and students to be here to present here. And I hope that we will take a note from this and we will lead for a better and brighter future together.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Thank you, Rajkumari. Thank you so much for your wonderful vote of thanks. Okay, ma'am. So again, I also thank Rashmi Ojha madam.
thank you. You don't need to thank ma'am.
No, ma'am,
Yeah.
because there are
Thank
so
you for
many people
addressing.
when you feel, and I was,
I may
no,
have skipped a few due to time constraints, but
yeah, ma'am. I wanted to just add. So when I teach political science and when I read, Declaration of Independence of US, and then I read, all men are born equal, then there is immediately a student's question, why, madam, it is such a great document. It is saying all men are born equal.
Yes,
So
madam.
that
Thank
should
you.
say-
Thank you very much. It was
Yeah.
nice. Students will be really motivated.
thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Panse, ma'am.
Can I
Yeah,
leave
yeah.
and come back?
Okay, ma'am, I'll be in touch with you and share the link. Share the link. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Okay, Allah, thank you, audience.
Nice lecture,
We
thank
will
you.
now end our session. Feedback link we will be sharing
Thank you,
in the
ma'am.
WhatsApp group. In WhatsApp group, we will share the feedback link for students. It is feedback link is for students, so I request all the teachers to forward it to the student. I'm sharing it in the WhatsApp group. Thank you, everyone.
We are not
Thank
supposed
you.
to fill. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.